Joining us now, as promised, Donald Trump's son, Eric Trump, who is the Executive Vice President of Development and Acquisitions for the Trump Organization. Eric, welcome.
Hey,
good to be here. You know, it goes back to this whole issue of whether or not your dad is a true conservative. Yeah. And the Club for Growth has been, you know, sort of a nemesis back and forth in terms of that charge leveled against your dad. You remember that time when the letter came in.
Very well.
So talk to me about your recollection of that.
Well, it's actually the ugliest part of politics. I listened to David speak, right? He came into my father's office. He asked for $1 million. My father goes, you know, I'm going to politely decline for now. And about a month later, there's a super PAC run by David spending all his time raising millions and millions of dollars to use in negative ads against my father. And I think, you know, it really surprises me, right, as a non-politician, as a family who's never been in politics, how ugly the business is. I mean, there's really extortion. What they did is nothing short of extortion, and it's sad. And I think people are fed up with it.
In terms of the accusations that have been, you know, leveled, and you heard it from David, and we talked about it earlier in the show, when you look at the anger in some of these protests, what your dad's opposition says is, you know, well, he started it, basically. That he allowed things to happen, or he encouraged people. He said, you know, I'll cover your expenses if anybody gets hurt, or, you know, back in the day, somebody would have been carried out in a stretcher. And they say that's what started all this. What do you think?
I'd actually say it's exactly the opposite. I think it's beautiful passion, right? You look at these rallies, you have 20,000 people show up. I mean, even Carlson just said that they had 8,000 people at the rally that they're at, you know, speaking at right now. I mean, it's love, it's passion. And then you have a bunch of Bernie supporters who will come in and riot. And you see that all the time, and it's very sad. It's none of our protesters going over to the Sanders or Clinton events. It's always their protesters coming over and disrupting our event. And, you know, it speaks to the lack of manners, honestly, in this country. I mean, if I ever went to a rally, you know, somebody else's rally and acted like that, I mean, my father would have killed me as a child. I mean, he just would have, you know, killed me. It really speaks to the lack of manners in the country.
Talk to me about tomorrow night, about Indiana, about your perspective on how things are going to go there. And if your father wins tomorrow night, if Donald Trump takes Indiana, what does he think should happen next? And what would he do to try to bring people together?
Well, listen, we're going to win tomorrow night. There's no question about it. I mean, Ted Cruz has had an awful 2 weeks. He lost New York. I mean, we beat him by almost 50%. He got 0 delegates in this state. Right, we won Pennsylvania and Connecticut and Maryland and everywhere else, and Delaware, Rhode Island. I mean, we won every congressional district of those 5 states. I mean, he's just had a bad week. He did this little thing with Carly, which really backfired with him. He did this thing with Kasich, which also backfired. I mean, both moves were very silly, made him look very desperate and foolish. We're going to win tomorrow. There's no question about it. Even if we didn't win, quite frankly, we'd get well past that 1237. We're going to win tomorrow, and I think we're actually going to win every state between now and California.
All right. So then, if that's true, the big issue becomes a couple of groups. Women, primarily, where your father's unfavorable numbers are very high. He has said, when asked about this question, he thinks Hillary's going to play the woman card. And basically, you know, we're going to fix it. We're going to fix that problem. So how are you going to fix that problem when Hillary Clinton will clearly go after him on this?
Well, listen, over the last couple of days, there have been polls that have been coming out where we're actually beating Hillary in the general election. When on the, you know, head-to-head matchup, we're beating Hillary. There was a poll that came out today.
Yeah.
There was a poll that came out 2 days ago where we were beating her. There was a poll that came out a couple days before that where we were dead even. We're going to blow past her. But if you look at every state, right, in New York State alone, we got 59% of the women vote. The people that voted for us, 59% of them were women.
Of the GOP vote.
If you look at Nevada and so many of the states, they always say, well, you have the same problem with, you know, Latinos. Well, you know, in Nevada, we blew out the Latino vote. We got that. So it always makes for an easy soundbite to say, hey, Trump's not going to get the Latinos. Trump's not going to get the African-American vote. Trump's not going to get the women vote. But we have time and time again, race after race. I mean, we're 3.5 million votes ahead of Ted Cruz. We're 450 delegates ahead of Ted Cruz. I mean, we're doing amazing with those people, and I think we're going to do great in the general.
Very well in terms of the GOP nomination. But I think that the point is that when you get to the general election, the dynamic changes so dramatically. So what I'm just asking what the strategy is. You know, what's the approach? How do you start to expand the pool? Do you go to Ted Cruz? I mean, is there patching up with Ted Cruz? Somebody that your dad has called Lion Ted all along. I mean, we've seen him sort of make some overtures towards Marco Rubio in some ways. How do you patch those things up, and is that what he's going to try to do?
Well, listen, the sad thing about Cruz is he's no longer concerned about the party. He's concerned about himself. He was telling John Kasich to pop out of the race, right, because he had no path to 1237. Now Ted Cruz has no path to 1237. He doesn't want to go anywhere, right? And it sounds like he wants to be a little bit stubborn going forward. If he loses tomorrow, and he will lose tomorrow, he still wants to stay in the race. I mean, he's effectively at this point just being a spoiler. That's not good for the Republican Party. We should be out there. We should be going after Hillary. We should be doing everything we can to build the teams, build the GOP,
So
build the excitement.
I'm hearing no bridge coming anytime soon with Ted Cruz.
Listen, it's just sad. I mean, again, it's a politician putting himself before, his party, his movement, the people. We should band behind one person. We should unify the party, and we should get a jump on the Democrats because that's ultimately how we're going to win them come November.
We'll talk more. Eric, thank you very much.
Thanks, Martha.
Good to see you tonight.
Great to be here.